Hello, folks. This is Jeff Davis with the legendary Jeff Davis Show from Central Texas, USA. And I love Mike Hanson Archives. Peace out, baby.
When I got to be about 18, well, probably about 17 years old in high school, I would see the Channel 1 being beamed in from Washington, telling us America was bad and socialism was good. And I would hear all this ridiculous shenanigans, and I wasn't sure. And I would watch how things worked, and I've just got half a brain, really. And I could see the manipulation. I could see the lies. And once somebody's lied to me repeatedly, Jeff, I'm not going to
start to kind of figure it out. Huh?
Well, I'm not going to trust somebody once they've lied to me 100 times. And our media has been caught from the Food Lion to the Chevrolet pickups, blowing those up. You know, they're just engaged in total propaganda. And then I found out who controls them. I found out that the whole left-right paradigm is all false. I found out that it's really all a bunch of super rich, corrupt families who really don't want any new wealth to be formed. And I tell you the truth, I used to think you could still work within the two-party system. And I used to watch your program and think, no, Jeff's wrong. Jeff, sure, there are some militarization. Sure, there probably are a few black helicopters.
The Fed may be bad.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I knew the Fed was private. I knew no one would talk about it at universities. But then I saw the big picture, because I guess it was the respect I had for the media. Not an outright respect, but I grew up with my parents and grandparents, seeing them watch television and respect what people said, because they're good people, and they thought the people on television were like them, decent people. We judge the people around us kind of by the way we are. And if you're a good person, you're pretty trusting. And then at a certain point, when I saw the media begin to even admit this stuff and act like, hey, what's wrong with the police state? Hey, what's wrong with totalitarian behavior? It's for the children. Then I began to respect you a lot more. And the more I've read into this information, when I find out the photographs right here, the UN burning Somali children that will show later, and when I took a trip around the country just 3 months ago, my documentary will be out soon. And I saw for myself, Jeff, I saw for myself the UN signs at most of our national parks. It's been handed over by Executive Order 12,986. And when I saw that, and when I would point to the people at the parks and say, do you see this UN sign? They'd say, what's wrong with the UN? Let them run the parks. We need a And then I found who controls the UN: corrupt interest. People are delusional. They will not face up to what's happening.
Let me just, it is, Alex, actually a very hard paradigm to reach, because as we were talking outside, and I'm just going to be very blunt with you and the viewers of this program, I had mentioned to you that when I was 34 years old, after a couple of years of research on this, I basically woke up to the understanding that this whole thing, everything I had taught, everything I had been taught, was basically false. And that doesn't matter if it's military.
It's hard to accept that.
Right, it is very hard to accept that the whole world is a lie. But essentially, the more that you study it and the more you start to see it, you realize that basically we are essentially not really in control of our own destiny. Other people are deciding and manipulating things, and if they allow us to gain some materialistic things and allow us to proceed with some things, then we'll have it. But essentially, we are not in control of our own destiny, and
that's hard for a man to accept.
Very hard for people to accept, because if they've bought into the lie for so long, as I did for 34 years, it's hard to accept. Let me just talk to you a little bit, Alex, about the. We were talking privately, and I want to keep it at that, because I think we're very effective when we sit around privately
it's incredible.
And talk about this stuff. I think that'll be the most powerful discussion we could have here tonight. But we talked about some of the things that the enemy, and that's what they are. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this program, this special program here tonight, talking about the enemy. That's anybody that studies it knows it's the Federal Reserve and the World Bank and the international bankers. What we want to talk about today is some of the tactics, some of the diversions, some of the mechanisms that the enemy has used to enslave us.
It's very painful to see how people lap these lies up.
To manipulate us. What is your understanding, Alex? And I believe that you're constantly growing. Well, actually, we're all constantly growing in the understanding of some of these things because it's a very powerful propaganda machine. What is some of the understandings that you are seeing as far as some of the, it's like Rome. Rome used with the slaves of Rome, they used diversions, bread and circus, gladiators. What do you see in this modern day system? Tactics that the current emperors are using against the American public.
Jeff, I'm tired of being a pompous person who I've never really been pompous, but you want to feel pompous when you see how stupid people are, because that's what scares me. I'm not even that smart, and it's so obvious.
But what's funny is, let me just enter. I gotta just do this briefly. You and I were once
dumb as dirt.
I mean, we were all born into this lie.
We were once dumb as dirt.
Okay. So the understanding is that we can all awaken from this.
You can awake from the deep sleep they want to keep you in. Jeff, the scariest part that I finally had to realize, I was part of the system. I would think, well, yeah, we can fight in the system, we can change things in the system. And then when I saw that it is all a delusion controlled by corrupt crime interests, very sophisticated interests, that think of us as animals and useless feeders, as Ted Turner said. And, now the reality is no one wants to talk about the UN. They're fixing to restrict our industrial output by 20%, but no one else has to do anything. The UN now owns part of ACTV. And people who just heard that, they won't check it out, that Ted Turner gave them $1 billion in choice stock. The scary part is they don't care about us. They actually, as leaders, want to mutate us mentally. I don't mean as in a genetic sense, but they want to give us the most low-level thoughts, teach us to be the most rat-like creatures that only care about the baseline of posing. And that's what our society, and that's what scares me about this elite is they are hell-bent on destroying the human spirit of the general population, because their criminal spirit is very threatened by the basic family unit. It's very threatened by ingenuity and self-realization. It's extremely threatened by humans wanting to achieve their potential in a legal manner. And so they wish to criminalize the whole system through thuggery and debase us down to the level of rodents.
Yeah, no, those are some excellent points, Alex. I want to just some of the diversions that I want to just touch briefly on some of the specifics. I personally believe that the enemy is smuggling in large portions of the drugs into this country. And I'm just talking about this country, folks. This is a world. This is a world order.
I personally know and again, I say this quite often because people need to understand. I don't want to endanger my family, but not my father or my mother, but other members of my family have been involved in the Central Intelligence Agency. And let me tell you, they're the ones. The whole drug war, police here in town have told me, it's all about controlling competition.
Yeah. Well, let me just make my point here. Now, there's several elements of diversions that what I believe the American people, the enemy of the American people. Again, this is a world problem, so I'm just addressing the American people. There are several diversions that the enemy of this world uses. One of them being the importation of drugs to control people's minds, the control of public schools, apathy. I want to have Alex touch upon that here in just a moment here. But there's many different, social programs control people, taxes control people, various different mechanisms that the enemy is using now. I want to, because we had talked about this privately outside before the program began here today. I want to ask Alex about the many of we sit and talk about this. We have private discussions about this, and how a lot of people are just they're caught up in the Dallas Cowboys. They're caught up in
cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger. Going to their job. Ted Koppel, Dan Rather. Football, going to bed. How do you believe well, there's no belief about it, but what are some of the various mechanisms that you see that they have created to what I consider to be one of the greatest problems, and that is just being basically make people apathetic to what's happening around them.
Jeff, you just said it. It's group psychology. Through the media and its well-packaged lies, they make people accept the false idea that they are part of the system, that they are part of the establishment, that they have a stake in the status quo. And I got news for you. The status quo is dumbing down the public, brainwashing, stagnating the intelligentsia into a clique of twits. And everything is looks and glamour and glitz. No one really, the oldest saying, and it used to be a great saying, and you never hear it anymore, is never judge a book by its cover. You need to read deep into that book before you know what's going on. And maybe that's one of the beauties of my life, is I've been lucky enough to have been taught, made a lot of mistakes, but to take my time checking things out, not to make up my mind on something.
Yeah, that's good, because a lot of people are just reacting.
Boom.
Instead of thinking things.
Stop reacting, start acting.
Right.
And
start thinking.
Exactly, and you want to talk about diversions. I mean, we make the joke a lot. Woo, Dallas Cowboys. Woo, Longhorns. Oh, is that commercialism? And people sit around for hours instead of talking about politics and their families' lives and how they can move forward and how they can be an active part in the real world of geopolitics and real politics. Rather, they're taught to be obsessed with a little puck or a ball or a bat or a mitten, and to know the whole science and the whole nuance of
fashion
of whatever cup of tea they lay out a whole platter of diversions.
Yes, sir.
And once you drink from that cup, it's over. And they get you obsessed, and you learn the whole science. I'll hear people, and I'll watch a great live sports game. I know you enjoy sports.
Sure,
watch your Indians, watch your football teams. Does that mean the morning you're a slave? Does that mean that's all you're obsessed with?
Well, our minds are still free.
Yes, these people will focus 110% body and soul only on the sports.
Yeah, and they won't know what's happening around them.
And they know every nuance, but they can't tell you who the representative is. They can't tell you who their congressman or senator. They can't tell you who the mayor is sometimes.
What the Federal Reserve is.
They can't tell you the basic foundation of their society. And what they are is, sadly enough, delusional serfs, slaves, minions, whatever you want to call them. And I don't say this to feel better about people. It frightens me because I'm in the river with them. We're flowing together in this big mass of humanity.
The only difference is that we understand some of these things, and many people do not. Now, you've been mentioning to me privately, Alex, about and I'm not going to mention a movie, but a quote that was been stated here recently, and that is that every man dies, but not every man really lives.
You got it.
And I think that that's so appropriate.
Every man dies, but
I think there's a lot of people that men and women, in fact, that actually are just kind of literally just zombie types. I don't want to get into a discussion of insulting people, but the fact is, folks, the fact is we've lost many of our rights here now in this country. And we're losing many of our resources, and many of you all still.
But Jeff,
still are not.
Jeff, the collective has been strengthened mightily.
Yeah. Still, many of you lay down to what's happening.
And the banker's power has only been increased.
I want to just now, before we get into the next topic here, we want to basically what we're doing here, folks, is we're exposing what I know is a lie in this world, and we're visiting with Alex Jones. He's a local radio host. Also has a couple of shows down here on Austin Cablevision, or Time Warner. I want to just mention a couple of things here. First off, folks, kind of what we've been, to kind of tie this into a point, we've been talking about a little bit about this. I'm going to let Alex expand on this before I move on to something else. But this title here says a lot here, Alex, as far as what's happening to our world. And let me just put it up here briefly here.
Conspiracy for global control.
And it's in front of my face, but that's okay, folks, because this is important information, and I don't care if my face is covered. Go ahead, Alex, tell us a little bit about how what this is all about here, what this magazine is stating.
Basically, people figured out a long time ago, from the time of the first kings, that it's the man that has the guard, the force, the power, and who is willing to squash his subjects who has the control. And they figured out it doesn't matter who's got the best ideas or anything. What matters is if you've got the force and the control of resources. And America is in a struggle for its very lifeblood right now. This month, by the time this program is airing, it'll be going on live. Al Gore is going to go to Kyoto, Japan. And he's going to restrict our fossil fuel and power intake up to 20%, and no one else has to comply with anything. America has to have tariffs against it of upwards of 15% in every other country, but we have a 2% on average on other countries. America has to deal with no environmental laws in other countries and no human rights, but we have all that, which is good. It is a deindustrialization plan, not by accident, not by folly. These people have the power because they're premeditated and they're evil. And it's easy to ignore this. You won't have to get a headache and bust your brain about thinking about it if you just ignore it. But my God, you could be a human being and you could think about it. And exactly, every man dies, but not every man lives. And if people could just for 1 second feel the human spirit and stop this dehumanization, it could be incredible.
Let me just move on to the next. And Alex, you're doing a fantastic. I got to say, you're doing a fantastic job, folks. Basically, what this is all about here, and quite frankly, I don't care if you believe me or not. I don't care if you believe Alex or not. I'm beyond.
See, Jeff, I used to try to argue with him.
I'm beyond.
Finally, just hang up.
I'm beyond worrying about that. If you want to go on in your own little believe in the reality.
The PAP.
Yeah, the reality.
The little paradigm they spin.
I come up with a good term for that today. Reality shortened media. I actually had a better term than that.
It was better. I remember I saw your live.
But I want to just mention that. Then go ahead. Okay, go ahead. You don't have to listen to Alex. You don't have to listen to me. And I'm not. I'm just.
Keep bumbling along, and they'll just laugh at you.
The only question is in all of this, and I'll ask that question at the end because that's the pivotal question that I know many people are asking. But I want to just first off, folks, you have to understand that basically this current problem goes back to 1776. I'm not going to linger into all of that because we've got a lot of information here that we want to get into, a lot of different sources of information.
We have photographs of the UN burning little children.
All right, we've got a lot of different things here, and I want to just stay on target here. But this current problem actually does go back to 1776, and I want to just mention the one other thing here, if I can find it. But basically, it was George Washington many years ago who came up with a quote that I want to read here to you, and I want Alex to kind of delve into the total plan of the people who control the system now. And I think that you'll find
an authoritarian police state.
And I wanted to also mention, folks, that many of this stuff, too many of us, including myself at times, and I know Alex at times, has made statements like this stuff is coming. This is coming, and the fact is we're living in a new world order now. And have been for a long time. I mean, many of our young people have been...
the question is how deep of a degree?
Right, how deep. And my personal opinion is, folks, is the world order people are virtually on the premise of
total control.
Yeah, closing the doors on us. But I want to just mention, okay, as far as that goes, I'll find this quote here in a minute. Let me turn to Alex here. What do you see, Alex, as the total... Well, considering the fact, let me just briefly, okay, they've got their central bank, they've got their income tax, they've got their property tax. They've got sales taxes. They've got permit fees.
They've got
licenses.
regional governors
They've got
controlled by the
regional-
federal control.
What is their total plan, and how far are they at this time?
Total, it's not going to be called religion, but it's going to be akin to all the false religions or state-sponsored brainwashing of the past. You're going to have a group psychology used, or a popular culture, or a peer pressure system used, or so-called political correctness. But hold on.
I got to interrupt just for a second.
Let's talk about
and I'm
political
not going to interrupt you
sure.
for long. But don't you think that a lot of that, I mean, we're living in that. I mean, there's a comment that I just made a minute ago that, a lot of people are, this is coming. We're living in it. Everything you said there, we're living in.
But the degrees are going to increase.
Okay.
I talked this week about the last week, about the October 31st issue of the movie section of the Statesman. And they told you Boogie Nights is good, they told you this is good, and fine, go see, whatever, those movies are whatever. And below it, they had a story about Red Corner, talking about how China had no human rights and how it's bad. And then the review, it said, wait a minute, China wouldn't have let off O.J. Simpson, their military tribunals wouldn't have let off O.J. Simpson, and they might have even roughed up the lawyers for taking the case. Wait a minute, what's wrong with that? So you talk about being in the system, we're beginning to see the heat turned up as these minions openly espouse, we need totalitarian, authoritarian, fascism, /thug, whatever.
Right.
We need law and order. There's these people. Well, it was the media that gave us the O.J. Simpson case in its grand splendor and showed us how terrible it was. They are indoctrinating us, programming us, shock therapy, as you call it,
Yep.
to just throw ourselves prostrate on the lap of the state and beg for total control. And our public schools are just filled with either mindless or
Turning the kids into vegetables.
yes, technicians that the kids only care about the shoes and the clothes, and other than that, they learn the UN's a great thing and world government's going to save us. Because if we don't give up all our rights to some world union of socialism controlled by corrupt interest, socialism for the poor, free market for the rich, if we don't turn that over to them, Mother Earth's going to die. The sun's going to drop into the sea. That's the same thing the witch doctor told primitive tribes 8,000 years ago. They'd say, if you don't follow me, the crops won't grow. And then the witch doctor would have handed down knowledge and would know when the eclipse was coming. And he'd say, you've been bad today. The sun will be blackened. And the sun would be blackened. And then everyone would believe he had all the answers. The same thing today. Let me just give one little quick case study. I've had geology and basic history, and I've watched Discovery Channel and all. I've studied a little bit.
Well, we don't even know whether that's true.
Exactly. But they've done ice cap studies. They've done core
But you
studies.
understand it. We don't know whether any of that.
Exactly. The lies are so complete. But we know this. The lies are so complete.
Yeah.
But we do know this. 12,000 years ago in northern Texas, because of boulder fields and the way stones are arranged and because of the geological record, that there were massive mile-thick glaciers 12,000 years ago in the panhandle of Texas. The Earth has been warming for 12,000 years. We're on about an 18,000-year cycle of ice age and warm-up. That's what the planet does. And if they can get us, because of natural process, to give up our rights, let me assure you, socialism isn't going to save the environment. In fact, look at the worst countries in the world for the environment. It's always socialist countries, communist countries. Look at Russia. A full fourth of the children there are born with serious birth defects. And these UT professors want to tell us that what's going to save the environment and the people is centralized power. It's really sick.
Well, let me just say this. I think the last people that we would expect to save the environment or to create a world government that's peace and prosperity
Are these criminals?
are the same people who have destroyed the nation, destroyed the environment.
They make their money out of militant
This is the
enthusiasm,
thing.
out of panic. They create panic and mayhem in a controlled
This is the
formula,
thing,
and then they create the fusion of big government state.
This is the fallacy of anybody that would aspire to this. In fact, I've heard people say, "What's wrong with the one world government?" It's going to be peace and prosperity for they
I
need
hear it
some,
every day.
but they don't understand who's actually exactly
Jeff,
behind it.
I want you to tell
Let me just
about this.
I want to get personal real quick here, Alex. Now you and I have talked about this stuff a lot, in private, and I think this is the best way to keep this program here tonight or today. And I think you folks are going to get a lot out of this program. You have mentioned privately and publicly that for years you did not believe me, people like me, and that,
wait.
let me just.
I believe I knew that basically governments were intrinsically dangerous through history, that they were corruptive, that they had forces. But now,
Yeah, but let me make my point. Let me make my point. You now are starting to get to the point, and which I'm glad, because we need all the people to this point of this level of understanding that we can get. As far, quite frankly.
Jeff, they're turning up the heat.
Quite frankly.
Jeff,
the fact is,
how could I miss it? They're turning up the heat.
Well, there's a lot of people missing. Now, what I want to ask you, Alex, is obviously the whole world is a lie right now. Virtually on every front.
It's very profitable.
And you are becoming very much seeing much of the manipulation and process, and much of the manipulation at work, which I'm glad. Quite frankly, I'm glad you are. Let me ask you: is it because of just different forms that you've seen, in your opinion, that's increasing your enlightenment to this, or is it just because of their different actions that the other side is?
Well, you've talked about how they would rather keep the move towards total police state and control, because that's what they're after, total power of everything, and then it will only go in more successive waves because they're sick mentally. Either it's gradual, they would rather keep it gradual, I believe. A lot of people think they want to have this big boom, it comes. No, they like to panic us. If they have to, they'll reserve to Reichstag burning behavior. Couple of Oklahoma cities they'll create, like every other thug's done.
Right.
But what it comes down to is I began to see it because they're just trotting right out in front. You turn on C-SPAN, and Foreign Affairs. This is the bi-monthly.
Let me go ahead and put it up there for you. Go
Tell
ahead.
them about it.
Well, I'll let you tell them about it, but go ahead. Let's get a close-up of this, or we can't. Well, go ahead, Alex. That's a good.
Foreign Affairs is put out every 2 months by the CFR. It's Council on Foreign Relations. And their own bylaws of this secret organization say there's a non-published, non-disclaimer of anything spoken about. It's a secret organization. And they put out this, and if you open to the first pages of this July-August 1997 issue, it says, Women's Vital Voices, Swanee Hunt. Post-communism has been bad for women. Their representation, employment, and safety have suffered. America must support women leaders and entrepreneurs from the transition to democracy and capitalism to be complete. They tell you that post-communism has been bad for women. Well, that's a damn lie, number one. You turn to the next page, and they tell you transferring the military.
Yeah, but let me...
listen. They tell
Alex, I don't want to interrupt you.
They tell us, hold on. They tell us that we should get rid of our aircraft carriers because they're useless. This is put out by Europe.
But let me tell you something. I didn't want... Now, this is the first time I've interrupted you, but I got
to. That's okay. Go ahead.
Now, your understanding, somebody's understanding of what's going on in this
front
world
group. That's front.
Goes beyond just reading this thing.
No, that's their front. That's their front BS.
No, but there's something that you are seeing, either in the media, through certain laws raining down on us. There's something that somebody that reaches a certain level of understanding starts to see, and it's not really so much just in this.
Okay.
You're seeing.
Okay. Do you know what I see?
You see the manipulation, don't you?
I see the manipulation intrinsically connected to everything. I find out that the universities are controlled with grant money and with tenureship to the professors. If they don't spout the line, they don't get the tenure. And they tell us there's these goody two-shoe liberals or conservatives or whatever, and really all they are is fascist technicians. Basically, Jeff, I've seen them on C-SPAN. Sandy Berger, our National Security Agency president.
No, but when Clinton, I got to ask you, I want to get out of you what I want here.
He loves us.
When Clinton says, and he goes up there and says, we got to do this, and this, for the kids.
You see the media,
or for the environment.
The media chants it.
You now starting to see that this is a lie.
Oh, it's more than a lie. It is a sick, twisted, emotionally packaged, popular culture torpedo against the very spirit.
Well, let me ask you this, though. Why can Alex Jones see it and Jeff Davis see it? Many of us do see it. And I don't think we should be concerned about the masses as a whole. But why are there still so many people that believe this stuff?
A lot of people see it, but again, I go back to the central point. They have been made to feel like they are part of it, that they owe something to it, that it owes something to them, that the status quo...
And what's the fallacy in that thinking?
Well, the problem is you're dealing... Cream...
They're expendable.
Well, they're very expendable, but let me say this. Cream rises to the top of the middle class. People can have good lives, have a good wife, take their kids fishing, whatever. That's all fine down here. Go to the art show or whatever you do for life. That's all good, and if you want to be laissez-faire in those terms, that's fine. But scum rises to the top of the elite because you have to be ruthless. You have to be ready to kill and destroy whole third world nations. You have to be ready to send troops in. That's how this world works. It's modern Rome. You've got to crucify those people so that they have fear of you. You have got to brainwash your own subjects. You know, the most enslaved people in Babylon or Rome or Egypt were the actual nobles and kings themselves, or the lower level minions, because they were in the very system. The lower level slaves were beaten down and at least knew things were corrupt. It's that middle class that thinks they really are the rich, when in truth, they are paupers in flashy clothes.
Very expendable.
And mentally, they are poor because they don't have one damn shred of real human spirit.
Right, I agree with
Hello,
it.
folks. This is Mike Hanson, your good old YouTube video buddy. And we got a new YouTube channel. It's Hanson Archives. Hanson. And we got a new one coming out, Waco Archives. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right now. And if you'd like to write us to help out with this project, she's going to throw the address up right now for you. All right. And if you'd like to call us, 830-672-3089. Go ahead and tell them, look at this little puppy. Tell them to subscribe. Say subscribe. All right, folks. God bless.
Okay, well, folks, I want to just say this is very enlightening. And I'm sure that you all viewers are maybe seeing Alex in a very, I think, impressive light here today. I want to just read one quote here. You know, this is Austin, Texas, folks. This is a, big brother government, and it's all loving here. Remember, that's what they tell us. It was George Washington who stated that government is not reason, it's not eloquence.
It's force.
It is force. Like fire. It is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. Now, with that, Alex, winding down our final little...
How long do we have? Because I can't see the clock.
About another 15 minutes or so. Let me just...
Yeah, I want you to
we've
mention...
actually got callers calling. I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, I want to keep this focused here.
Well, Jeff, I want to tell you this.
We do. We have callers.
Because we're in here taping a show. No one even knows we're on. We got callers.
Okay, look, turn around there. Okay, let me just mention here.
I want to tell you...
Yeah, let me just flash these up here real quick. Okay, folks, now the UN, and Alex will tell you about it. This UN, the United Nations, is presented as a loving organization. Now, Alex brought this magazine down here to us, another one of these. Tell us what's going on here, Alex, in this...
well, I don't know if the camera's able to focus on that.
Yeah, it might not.
But that's the new...
No, they can see that.
Good. That's the New American, September 29, 1997, and it shows them burning a Somali child. And if you open it up to the middle of the little magazine, it shows them cutting the heads off Somali children.
It does do that.
Yes. Why did we never hear about that in the mainstream?
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
I mean, every time I hear the UN, it's like they're trying to save somebody. And when I heard that these U-2 spy planes were going over to Iraq, I heard that they were under UN control.
Yeah,
I mean, anybody that doubts the power of the UN, you got Ted Turner, the biggest communications mogul in the world, giving them control of his network in Europe, giving them $1 billion in stock of Time Warner here in the U.S. You've got the UN. There it is. You've got
Let's get this back up here a minute.
cutting the head off a child. You've got the UN ready to restrict our fossil fuel
Can we get
intake,
this back up?
and no one else has to follow it. You've got the UN bankrupting third world countries.
I think I can get it in there for him to see. Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead and keep talking here.
Well, I don't know if we can focus on that.
Well, maybe you can't.
Well,
but basically,
that was
folks,
pretty good. Show them again. That is
basically, folks, they've got images. Okay, basically, what you've got is a
loving
organization. Now, I don't want to get into any specific thing. I want to keep this in. Now, it's gotten a little bit lively.
It's a Nazis
And that's
International.
okay. But I wanted to keep this little discussion here with Alex on this special segment of Jeff Davis Show. Just as about the tone that it's been, and I love it. Now, I just want to briefly throw this up here. America's greatest problem. This isn't, we're not going to get into all of this.
The government will own nothing. The people will own nothing. The corrupt bankers will own everything.
Okay, basically, it's the debt usury money system that I want to just fine-tune this now.
Jeff, you were on my radio show a couple weeks ago, and I want to talk about something beautiful you said. For years, you've been being called by the dupes, and even halfway by me, you've been being called a little goofy, a little quirky, out of control, talking about these black helicopters, the federalization of our local police departments, the centralization, the Joysten-Stunstaffel 1997 version.
Right.
Well, let's show those black helicopters from the Lair News Hour from September 23rd, 1997, where they admitted black helicopters for surveillance of the public under federal control by the local police departments, and then it shows local SWAT team commanders saying it's top secret.
I don't know whether I should ask you this or not now.
Go ahead.
But you made the comment. Now, you want me to ask you about...
I don't care. Let's be frank.
What you told me about the other night on the FM radio show?
What?
About the helicopter hovering over my place?
Jeff, I don't want
You saw it,
Jeff, I don't want to... You had told me I've seen black helicopters. Lair News Hour admits it's real. The other day I was driving over to your place to get you to go do a radio show. And I didn't want to believe it. I was about 2 miles away. I knew where your place was a couple roads down, and right over your apartments was hovering a small jet black helicopter directly over your apartment. As I turned in, the helicopter continued to hover. Your son heard me honking violently to get you to come out, but you were on the telephone with somebody, and it streaked off. And then when I told you, you had witnesses that it happened several years ago when you were running for Congress. This is, and
this wasn't the normal one. You said this is the little black,
the little
shiny pea pod one.
And the scary part is now Lair News Hour is admitting that all local police departments have these for surveillance of the general population. It's a federal grant. It's federally controlled, but instituted by local police departments, and the SWAT team people and the police say it's top secret and they won't talk about it. We are in a police state.
Oh, yeah, have been for a long time. That's the one thing I want to emphasize. If nothing else comes out of this program here today, other than Alex is being very composed here today, and he's making a lot of good points, is the fact, folks, that we are not just in a situation where we are heading for trouble.
We're in trouble.
Yeah, we're in trouble and have been in trouble for a long time.
And in the next few years, it's already starting to happen with access television and FM radio and AM radios being consolidated by insurance companies and banks. And there's, even if people have got ratings.
Oh, who was telling me? Somebody was telling me that the local, not the local, but the major news medias now are owned by seven companies.
Yes. Well, the scarier part is those interlocking directorates are controlled by Rothschilds and Rockefeller and other interests.
Plus the FCC license.
Licensing. But the important part is, Jeff, is that people don't trust a lot of the things. And frankly, like you say, I don't care if they believe it anymore because I've seen it.
Yeah, we're beyond.
I don't know if your producer, Mike, who does a fantastic job, wants to rewind it to the point where it first shows the helicopters on the pad and just play 15 seconds where they admit on Lair News Hour that it's black helicopters, that it's local, that it's controlled by the feds, and that it's for surveillance of the people.
Just between you and me, Alex, I don't even care about flare news out. I know they're real.
Oh, no.
I've seen them.
I know.
I don't need these CFR.
Well, Jeff, I mean,
I don't need these CFR dudes to tell me that they're real.
I understand.
I've seen them.
But Jeff, 2 years ago, that was when I was kind of doubting you. I already knew it was true a year ago when SWAT team people here in Austin said, Alex, I don't like it. We are trained with the military. It's house-to-house seizures. We're practicing taking up firearms. We're practicing taking up, like one family member. They're practicing rounding up people right now as we speak, and they've got the concentration camps built. In 1996,
Loving.
In 1995, they had fiscal year 1996 defense appropriations, Jeff, and I wasn't even, I was aware, but I was just watching, and this is when I started waking up before I even got my Access television show and then got good enough to get an FM radio show. I was sitting there, and I was oil painting, watching this defense appropriation, and I saw this lady come forward from a Democrat, from a Loving, from Republicans do it too, but a Loving, they always use Lovings, from California. She introduced $8 billion for urban warfare training centers and stockade facilities. That was just what they built in 1996. $8 billion. They take old military facilities, bases, all those closings, they fence them.
Which was planned in the 60s.
Yes, they fence them, and they turn them into concentration camps, and they're just waiting all
Or
over the
UN
country.
training centers.
Yes. UN troops are training in Louisiana, Mississippi.
Fort
Alamogordo, New Mexico. I've got that in a documentary coming up. German and Russian troops training.
In fact, they have a They used to have a website at the Fort.
Do you know why they have to do that, though, Jeff?
It's a whitewash.
Well,
it's held to the dumbbells. Well, see, they got them here, and they ain't made it, but who cares?
the reason they have to do it is the same reason we have to go over to Bosnia to do stuff, because our American troops probably won't want to fire on U.S. citizens, even though they've asked them to do it in the questionnaires and the Marines and other things. So they're going to have to import occupation forces. And see, I used to think you were nuts when you said this, but now I see the UN preparing to restrict our fossil fuels. The UN has put up signs at the national parks that it's controlled by them. It's real.
It's very
Mike,
much.
can we play?
It's very much a possibility too that.
Mike, let's just play just those helicopters.
Well, actually, we're running out of. I want to get the last 10 minutes here to keep our schedule here. It's very possible that the UN folks itself could be a diversion, and they could implement something like Chinese forces or something, Russian forces or something.
In fact, who was the old Federal Reserve Chairman? Who was the Federal Reserve Chairman before Alan Greenspan?
Paul Volcker.
Paul Volcker called just last month on C-SPAN.
CMR.
He called for something stronger than the UN. He said the UN has outlived its usefulness.
Yeah.
We need something stronger, something more militarized.
The fact is, we don't know. But I will say one thing, folks. If and when it gets to the point, and it could be, and I don't make predictions, but if it gets to a point where they are publicly announcing that foreign troops are in American soil, on American soil,
I'm going to heaven to the hills.
doing policing operations.
Loving.
That's when Jeff Davis quits his Access show and his radio shows, and he's heading for the hills. Okay, the final area where I want to talk about, Alex, is in this global new world order. I believe, and we've discussed this privately, that quite frankly, the one worlders are had a time schedule, and I believe doing different, not just in America, although they consider us the pesky one.
We're the keystone of freedom.
Right.
What do they? In fact, that's why they've got to degrade the culture so bad. 200 years ago, every country was enslaving and killing people. But how come in our history books we only hear about how America's bad? They've got to destroy our past so they can reinvent a future of slavery.
Yeah,
so we will accept fascism, and just like you said, and I've seen Henry Kissinger say it many times, it's the pesky Americans that keep them from.
Yeah, Henry Kissinger actually did say that in a Bilderberg meeting.
Well, Paul Turner,
everything's moving right along except for the pesky.
Ted Turner has called us useful feeders. I mean useless feeders on C-SPAN.
But let me just for the last few minutes we have here, and Alex, I appreciate you.
Yeah, Jeff, you did a great job.
Jeff Davis show here, bro. I personally think that they would like to have chips in all our hands, tracking devices in all of our cars.
They already put them in the cars.
Preferably, the majority, many more of us, I'll put it that way, many more of us in buses,
Trains.
smart trains, high-speed rail.
Controlling mobility.
Mobile slaves or mobile slaves are not good slaves. But let me just ask you this final thing that we talk about regularly. I believe personally that they are behind schedule a little bit. They're mainly due to the resistance, not just in this in a country, largely America, but other nations. Do you see with their goals of a new world order? I'm coming out with it, folks. That's their goal.
Slave system.
A slave system, global slave system. Do you? I mean, this is all prediction, and it's all kind. I normally don't like to get into this, but do you see that they are on target, behind schedule, and either or? Do the American people and the world's people as a whole? Do you believe that we have a chance of turning this thing around?
I believe that, like you said, we're already in this corrupt paradigm of delusion that they've created for us with slick packaging and psychology and conditioning. But as we enter deeper into this system, as history's always done, the key is these forums may be shut down in the future. The important point is get enough information out now so that there is still a kernel of information, of seed there, buried there, so that people can reach back and remember and get enough information. When you said chips in the hands and all that, a lot of people probably laughed, and I don't care anymore. You're right.
Yeah.
Because they've been thumb scanning people in Texas since '93 for driver's license or renewal, and Bill Clinton ordered in '96 if the states want their highway funds. By late '98, in most large states, urine and blood testing clinics for everyone. The news said 18 and under. I've read the actual, not a bill, not a law, but the regulation, the federal little loving thing they gave us with no vote. It tells them how to put the clinics in. It tells them you'll have 4th and 10th Amendment violations, states' rights violations and other things. It tells them how to get past that. Tells them how to put the clinics in. Tells them how to raise money for it, partially out of tickets and from the federal grants. And if we want our money for our highways that they take from us, we're going to have to do this. So, man, if they want to start urine and blood testing us, and that's openly in the public now, even though you have no criminal record, you're not innocent until proven guilty. It's an invasion of privacy.
You can extract all types of information from people.
DNA, you name it. The insurance companies will be buying it up feverishly, and
genealogy.
People will be losing. Yeah, people will be, and the elite's very hung up on that. See, I didn't used to, and now and again, a few years ago,
you didn't used to believe any of this.
Listen. A few years ago, we were kooks to talk about black helicopters. Now it's
we weren't.
Hold on.
We weren't. That's what they were being programmed to say. Yeah.
But listen, now it's just you guys don't be alarmist. Okay, we need that. We need these secret units and now when the urine and blood testing starts, we won't be crazy anymore because they'll actually have to do it. They won't. People are too lazy usually to go check it out. Then it'll be okay. That's a good idea. And when they want to put chips in our hands, I guess, or up our ass,
it'll be the same thing.
Yeah,
it'll be the same thing. 3 years from now, now they're saying, these guys are just alarmists. Blah, blah, blah. 3 years from now. They'll be moving towards doing that.
They'll be saying,
it's okay. We need it to protect our, old ladies out on the farm.
It's like Austin Access his own.
It's basically, let me just say this. Let me ask you this. Now, it's basically, this was a very powerful point that we discussed privately. And it's basically, even and Alex, just the masses. And I'm not trying to make a lot of people angry here, but this is just the truth if you're watching this program.
They're furniture.
Yeah, basically, they're told something one day, and they believe that, and then the news the so-called news can come out with something completely different the next day.
And they go, okay.
And they believe that, forgetting completely what they were told the day before.
How do they do it? I mean, how? And it's no self-respect. It's nothing. There's no real mooring. And now you're back to something more important.
It's just reacting.
Well, Jeff, here's another point, a very important psychological point you just brought up. We have to use psychology in this because advertisement is psychology.
That's what it is, yeah.
It's the
brainwashing.
It's the highest form of conditioning.
Yeah.
What do they tell us?
Yeah.
You hear this everywhere. It doesn't matter. Nothing's set. Who are you to say what's right and wrong? Well, I assure you out there, If I come up to you, Jeff, or let's say you're tied down and I come up and stick an axe in your head, you know that was wrong.
Yeah.
You didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
That's wrong. If somebody comes up
That's not one world.
Well, exactly. Well, if somebody, listen. If somebody comes and robs your house for no reason, or rapes and kills your family, people will say that's wrong. That's still wrong in our culture, but not for long. We'll still be like an Aztec or a Babylonian society where we sacrifice our children to the government or to whatever God the government gives us.
Yeah.
We're in this sick group psychology where we're totally losing it with the basic human cord that's there. This is the basic law. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's set. So people don't even... Again, you got the statesman in the movie section saying, hey, the Chinese wouldn't let off OJ. So that's where we're at now. They're calling for fascism. It's okay because nothing matters, Jeff. Nothing's set.
They're basically being conditioned to believe that everything that's going on around
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's
just react. Just react like cattle.
But it's acceptable.
Yes, anything.
Black ski van busting into your house with black ski mask. Okay. We're ready to wind down here. I want to give Alex, I got to say that you did a fantastic presentation, folks. And,
appreciate that.
I want to mention that for the viewers out here, the Jeff Davis Show, I don't know whether I can do this or not, but if you like the okay, we won't do it. But anyway, this has been a special segment here tonight, and I think, folks, that let's face it, bottom line is there is a conspiracy, if you even call it that.
Human history is repeating itself.
And regardless, it's time to deal with it. Alex Jones, I want to give you a special time here to make a quick closing statement. I appreciate you coming on the program.
I love Mike Hanson Archives.
Are you ready to run? Look who we got here. Somebody that we haven't seen in about 20 years is
Hello there.
Late and great.
Good to see you.
George Humphrey.
Yes. Oh my goodness! I see who it is. Yes.
Tell us what you've been up to.
Oh my goodness! Isn't this a great day?
Yes.
It is amazing.
Tell us why you're here. Hurry, because it's my Facebook.
My heart is heavy for the world, but my heart is also happy for the good people here. We need to get back to work, and we need to realize that this cure, it's not a cure. It's not about a virus. It's about political control. And we are free and sovereign, and we have the choice to either be slaves or to be free. I choose to be free. Yes.
Well, guess what I did? I bought about $20,000 worth of editing equipment and hired some people to put all the tapes on for the last 25 years, and you're on there. So I want you to, I'm going to plug my YouTube channel.
Okay, great.
Mike Hanson
of course,
Archives,
of course.
Hanson Archives, and Waco Archives.
I didn't recognize you at the start.
Okay, so I need you to say, this is George Humphrey, and I love Mike Hanson Archives.
This is George Humphrey, and this guy is awesome. Mike Hanson, the Mike Hanson Archives. Check it out.
You're on there. We just put about 3 tapes of you on there. And you had slick black hair then.
Now it's all dyed.
All right. God bless y'all. We'll see you in a minute. You're on.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Smith, and I love Mike Hanson Archives. Check it out.
And Hanson Archives.
And Hanson Archives?
Yeah, I got 3 YouTube channels.
Give them all to me. I'll do it. I'll rapid fire them.
God bless you.
Thanks, Mike.
This is Desi Mariah Andrews, and I love Hanson Archives and Waco Archives on YouTube.
And Mike Hanson Archives.
And Mark Hanson Archives. He forgot to tell me that, folks.
Oh, and I love Desi Andrews.